After the disappointment of the previous game, Amnesia is back with a bang. Now, if you've been on the internet for long enough, you're most likely familiar with these games, the first one being Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is pretty much a game that really popularized horror games back in the day.
Oh fuck, what do I do? Oh fuck. Oh, what do I do?
And it's also the game that really helped kickstart this young man's career.
Is it good? Yeah, it's good. I'm just in this guy's crotch, so I don't know.
I'm actually pretty stoked to talk about this game because this is definitely one of the better horror games out there right now. Now, I did play a little bit of the previous Amnesia game, which is Amnesia Rebirth, but I had a hard time finishing that one. I'm happy to say though that Friction Games really knocked it out of the park with this game. This game is scary, tense, and it also takes place within a pretty interesting setting. The game actually takes place during World War I, which is actually pretty unique for a horror game. I don't think I've ever seen a horror game that takes place in a setting like that. Anyway, you get to play as a French soldier named Henry, who eventually ends up trapped inside of a... you guessed it, a bunker. If the war itself wasn't bad enough already, you now also have some strange creature to deal with that pretty much chases after you for the entirety of the game. Have fun, champ. What also makes this one more unique than the other Amnesia games is the fact that the game doesn't save your progress. You need to manually walk to a very specific room in the bunker in order to save your game, and if you don't manage to make the journey back, you lose all of your progress pretty much. And yeah, you just get sent back to your last save. Rest in peace. Now, I'm not someone who scares very easily, but I'll admit that this game did make me pee in my pants a couple of times. The monster in this game is actually pretty scary, okay? And the whole setting of the game also works really well in combination with the horror. The monster in the game is actually kind of similar to the alien in Alien Isolation, I think. It pretty much reacts to how much sound you're making. You know, things like running too much and destroying doors to get inside of a room. You have these bricks that you can pick up and you can pretty much throw them at doors to destroy them. And this will pretty much just create a very loud sound. So, you know, you better start running at that point. All of these things will alert the monster to your presence, and it just makes the gameplay really fun. You're constantly on edge and you're always just trying to make as less sound as possible. The bunker itself is also very dark, of course, and you do have a flashlight, but the only way to use that flashlight is to keep winding it up. And winding that thing up makes sound and might alert the monster to your presence as well. You can pretty much turn on the lights in the bunker though, but doing that will cost you fuel. And once the fuel runs out, the lights in the bunker will go out. You also need to manage your items very well. Which items will you bring with you and which items will you leave behind? I also really like how the game doesn't tell you where to go, you know, you're on your own here. And figuring out how to escape the bunker is done without any hand-holding whatsoever. The game also allows you to be a bit creative when it comes to how you want to deal with certain situations. For instance, the monster isn't really the only enemy in the game. You also have these rats that often block your way, and you can deal with these rats in more than one way. Which way you deal with the situation is up to you. Now, I was hoping to get a bit more out of the story in this game, but for what it is, it works well. One thing I really liked about Amnesia: The Dark Descent is that there was a lot of interesting lore to learn about what's really going on in the game, and I was hoping for this one to kind of reach those highs. I also think the ending of the game could have been a lot more interesting, and I think that some of the items that you eventually end up getting turn out to be kind of useless. There's really no reason for a shotgun in this game. You also get a timer that pretty much tells you when the lights in the bunker are going to turn off, and I also think that item is kind of useless. I mean, you can just pretty much tell when they're going to turn off. And yeah, I just don't really see a use for the item at that point. Other than that, this is just a great horror game. So, is Amnesia: The Bunker worth playing?
Hell yes, ladies and gentlemen.